Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody?
What's going on,
Welcome.
brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm feeling great, feeling great. Cody, we have a very, very special edition of today's Fantasy Fire and Ice NFL edition presented by Sportstopia. Who's going to be joining us today?
We got some good people. We got some great people. Daryl from Sportstopia, and we got Steve from Drafters are going to be joining us. We're going to be going through a Drafters Million Best Ball. I'm excited. How about you?
Man, I'm just as excited, if not more excited. I can't wait. Let's get right into it, right? Shall we?
Let's do it. All right. Are we going to be sharing? Are we going to be sharing a screen? Oh, there's Daryl. Daryl joined us. Daryl, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Cody. How are you? How are you, Steezy?
Man, I'm feeling great, blessed by the best. Happy to be here. Daryl, how you doing?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm excited to draft what I think will be a pretty hard team to beat by some of the other 111,000 that may enter, but we'll see. Time will tell, huh?
Oh, man. Yeah, I can tell by the view behind you. I mean, oof, I wish I could be over there right now.
The marine layer is melting off. We've had a pretty gray and wet Southern California whole season. Normally have May gray, June gloom. I mean, we had a hurricane turned into tropical storm, which hardly never happens. But today, September 1st, it's a beautiful day.
Damn
All right.
right.
So I'm just working on sharing the screen right now. See if producer Keith can pop that thing up on the screen, and then we'll get going. There's currently 6 open spots in this Drafters Million. If you guys want to jump in.
We might want to wait for Steve if he's,
Okay. Are we waiting?
yeah,
Okay, we'll
that's
wait for
why I
him to pop
said
in first.
so we can all four get in. And I'm sure
Okay.
I know there's going to be some people out watching trying to get in. So about the time we try to do it, if there's only 4 or 6, it could be.
Okay.
We'll
We'll wait.
watch that to see, but let's see if Keith can bring Steve in here, and then we will be ready to rumble. But thank you for having me.
Most
Man, of
definitely.
course.
Steezy, how many of these have you done any of these Drafters best balls yet?
Man, like Ed said before the show, I'm a novice, but I played around with it a little bit, trying to, I guess, immerse myself as much as I can, especially in advance of today's show. And with our special guest that's going to be on in just a little bit, I mean, I'm going to have to, right? Daryl, do you mind sharing a little bit of information on our special guest?
No, it's Steve. He's a good friend. He's the owner of Drafters. He is the owner of Super Draft as well, and he's excited. I hadn't realized until I started to have a conversation with Steve of the uniqueness of the best ball. It's a $2 million best ball, 300,000 on top, and what Steve tried to create there was a more of a balanced contest, right? Of which right now I had to understand what the word overlay meant. I kept hearing people talk about overlay. What's overlay, right? Overlay is when you like look at a tournament like this best ball and it has 111,000 potential entries, right? It's a max 150. You can play one, you can play however many you want. Um, and it's projected to be maybe 70 to 80% full, which means you're playing with some of the house's money, which people talk about, right? But even if you don't, Cody talked about there was a tournament that filled up last year that had overlay up until the last couple of days. Um, there's a lot less entries. 111,000 may sound like a lot, but if you look at some of these other best ball formats, they're a 500,000 or more, right? And the other ones that I've seen, the main ones that are advertised to be multi-million-dollar contests, they're they're more of a you have to defeat the first 12 people you draft with to move on, right? And then the next week you have to defeat that group and that group and that group. And although the prizes at the top of those are very attractive, it's it's much more difficult. I like a format where there's no playoff, it's the whole season. You still have to have a lot of things go right. And Steve, I think he created a pretty fair, whether it's just $20 entry for the 2 million or there's a $3 that I believe has a $30,000 top prize, which, is very attractive, right? $3 into 30,000. I'll sign up for that. What about you guys?
Yeah, that one looks like it's got about 15,000 entries left. There's 59,000 out of 74,000. So that one looks like that's definitely going to be filled up before the season starts. And like you said, $3 into 30,000. It's going to be hard to get really kind of a better bet than. I'm going to do a couple of them. I've already done a couple of them this summer. So it's not many times in the world can you turn $3 into 30,000. We'll just put it that way.
That's
Man, almost sounds too good to be true.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I played fantasy for since the late '90s, and on the internet since DraftKings and FanDuel. I started to hear about these best ball tournaments last year. Right, there was a buzz about them. This is the first time I've ever been involved, and the excitement of the season starting. Right, and then you're just like, I have 11 entries into the. This will be my 12th into the $20. Right, and when you play multiple entries like that, you want to get diversity, right? I mean, if you're in
Of
love with a
course.
certain player, a lot of people, I know they like to play this to root for their team, right? But what you hate to have happen is you have your Josh Allens or your Lamar Jacksons of the world, and all of a sudden that first week, God forbid, they tweak a knee or something, right? And you're like, oh no, and you have them in every lineup, right? So not a good thing. So
I was just talking about that on a different show, kind of just going into the season. How I kind of look at right now as kind of like week 0 because there's no NFL games. And I feel like we got through the whole training camp without any big injuries. Like we got some people with tweaked hamstrings, turf toe, and things like this, but we haven't lost anybody to the big ACLs or anything like that. It doesn't seem like as
Oh,
far as being fantasy relevant. So I'm just like crossing my fingers and we can make it through a couple of weeks and we can, but it happens every year, but
hey, Cody, keep crossing those fingers. I'm gonna keep knocking on wood. So hopefully the little double helps out. But that only tells me if there has been any injuries yet, then it's only a matter of time. And so I'm hoping come week 1 there isn't something crazy that happens to one of your players, one of my players. I mean, shoot, it's almost like speaking into existence. But then again, it is part of the game. So,
well,
oof.
before we came on the air, Cody, you talked about it. Kamara, he's out for the first 3 games for disciplinary reasons, I think, and then Miller, right, the rookie they signed, that I think when healthy is going to be a factor. But you kind of have Williams all alone, and we know what he can do, right? So I think he's got to be somebody you look at early, and then when Kamara comes back, personally, I mean, I know what he's capable of. It's going to be interesting to see Carr, and they've got, they have those weapons with Olave and tight end, right? Jawan Johnson and who came back? Graham.
Graham came
Yes, he
back.
did.
Yeah. Michael Thomas should be healthy. Like I do think you bring up Jamal Williams. It's a good thing because I love Kendra Miller. I've been a big fan of Kendra Miller since he was coming out, and I thought he was a top 5, top 3 back in this class. But the
Oh,
injury thing is just leaving me really in a weird situation because the knee injury he's coming off of was an MCL. He had surgery. You fast forward all the way to August. He seemed like he was fine through camp, tweaks the knee, and then a week later, all of a sudden it's a hamstring injury. And you enter the season, and it's like nobody's been talking about Jamal Williams, like he just said. And what do we know about him? Led the NFL in rushing touchdowns in 2022. Like
mhm.
we know he can do it, and I'm of the belief that I think the New Orleans Saints are going to run away with the NFC South this year. Some people like the Panthers, but I love the Saints as far as that goes with this how this offense is built, how this defense is built. So you put Jamal Williams in here for the first 3 weeks. You got a banged up Kendra Miller, and then you have Kamara coming back. That's only going to bring the juice. But I think I haven't really accepted the fact that I think Jamal Williams is probably one of the better values right now on the face of fantasy football, just because, again, he doesn't need to have the biggest workload. He can literally just sit in that Jamal Williams role that we saw in Detroit last year. 17 touchdowns will pay in any format of fantasy all year. And so, yeah,
I
it's going to be
totally.
tough for me to accept the Kendra Miller thing, but I think Jamal is, again, going to be a guy.
I mean,
Do you,
if he gets off to a hot start and Kamara comes back and Miller, I mean, they're still going to use him like they use him, right? He's
of
going to be in
course.
there inside the red zone. So let's get started. I was just told there's some technical difficulty, so we don't want to keep the viewers longer, but go ahead and bring it up. How many spaces? Let us three get in and go at it and see what we can do.
Okie dokie. Well, I just shared the screen. We'll have to have, there it is. Boom.
Ooh.
All right, so it looks like the $20 Drafters Million NFL Best Ball Championship. It's got 2 spots filled so far. So if us three join, that'll get up to 5. And if you are listening along, please feel free to jump in. You can use the promo code FSL, Fantasy Sports Logic, and you get, what is it, a double deposit after $100 if you're a first-time depositor. This is PPR. You do have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. And again, remember, first place, $300,000. And this thing's only half full, so we're going to go ahead and jump in here.
Mine is showing 11 of 12 in the fast draft, but let me see.
Yeah, I see 11 of 12 as well.
Okay, well, maybe.
Yeah, let's wait because we're not all going to be able to get in. Let's wait till it rolls around. What are you seeing, Cody?
Your draft will begin when 9 more join. That's what mine says.
You're seeing the $20 one at mine's showing 11 of 12. What's yours showing, Steezy?
I see 11 out of 12 as well.
Yeah, so let's wait until that rolls around.
All unregistered.
Okay, now I see it. I have 3 of 12. I'm going to jump in.
All right. Actually, on my end of things, bad news because it's telling me that players from Washington State can't join.
Are you Washington State?
Yes, sir, I am.
Well, you're going to have to just probably comment then.
Okay. Wow, I did not think. Oh, shoot. I didn't think. Wow. Okay. Sheesh.
Right.
I didn't realize that when you came in. Yeah, that is something where you do want to let people know is certain areas that.
Yes, so to the audience out there, for anybody that resides in Seattle, Washington State, I don't know too many that probably will be, but yeah, that's something we definitely got to either figure out or work around somehow, some way. Because, ooh.
Are you in, Cody?
Yes, I am in. Says we're waiting on.
Yeah, I'm showing 10 of 12, so. So you a big Seahawks fan, Steezy?
Yes, sir. I covered the Seahawks out here, actually. Big Seahawk guy. Went to a lot of Seahawks training camps. Been real tuned in, tapped in. Got a couple of relationships with the players and whatnot. And so I'm super, super plugged in with the Seahawks. Ask me anything Seahawks, I got you.
Nice.
All right, so it looks like we're full in here. Do we get in the same draft? What is your handle? Your handle is FSL CEO?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. So we got in here. Daryl is at the 1 spot. I am at the 4 spot. Steezy, I'm going to defer to you to be the host here for keeping us along here. So me and Daryl could definitely get our strategy straight in here. But
No doubt.
Daryl, you're kicking us off at the 1 hole. It looks like we got about a minute. What is it? A minute until this thing actually starts?
This will be my 12th draft, and I think I have Jefferson 1 time, so you can't go wrong with him. I'll let the cat out of the bag. That's probably not a surprise to anybody. I know he's not a Seahawk, and Steezy probably wants me to take Metcalf, but I'm gonna pass on him and Lockett and go way out on a limb and take a chance on JJ, even though Addison may get into him a little bit, but we know Addison's fast. He was clocked at about 180, wasn't he?
Well, actually, I think there was a knock on his 40 time because he ran like, what was it, in the 4.5s?
We're talking the car. He got arrested for speeding.
We're talking about
the Ferrari.
The speeding ticket.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Well, he did talk about how he was trying to save his dog, or he was taking his dog to the ER. But okay, I didn't get the joke. My gosh.
Yeah. No, that was a good one. That was a good one, Daryl.
Daryl had to
Yeah, it
sneak
was
one in
funny in
there.
the interview when he got signed and he got the bonus. He said, "What are you going to do with your big bonus?" He said, "Buy a Ferrari." He did, didn't he?
He, he
Okay,
did.
I'm on the board with Jefferson, and what you want to watch, he's round 13 by, and there are a
Mhm.
lot of players on 13. So you
Got Cody on the clock here. Ooh, that was a fast pick. Who was that right there? I can't really. Oh, C-Mac. Cody, there was a report yesterday that came out. I think Kyle Shanahan talked about how they want to lighten the load, quote unquote, unlike what Carolina did. And obviously, Elijah Mitchell going late in drafts. How confident are you in Christian McCaffrey with that fourth overall pick?
I've never been the biggest McCaffrey guy because of injuries, and injuries is this thing that, for a DeAndre Swift types, the Devonta Freemans of the world, I've always been one very cautious of those situations and just paid attention to the ankles, the knees, and stuff. So
Right.
McCaffrey's been a guy I've always kind of been off of. Now that did burn me one year, but
Mhm.
as far as the expectation of them being smart, that's what we always wanted out of Carolina. You always wanted Carolina to be smart and be like, hey man, Carolina understood this is our only. I mean, they had DJ Moore, but they didn't know how to use him. This is our only dude. It's like we need to
Yeah.
give McCaffrey the ball 30 times. Now you look at the San Francisco offense, McCaffrey really only needs to probably touch the ball like 17, 18 times, 19 times, maybe. Like Debo's there, Brandon Ayuk's there, Kittle's there. I think that they have a bevy of competent running backs behind him. And think about a fresh Christian McCaffrey working out of the slot more. You can use him as an H back. You can use him literally everywhere. Even you put him out there in as the quarterback sometimes and let him run the ball. Like there's just so many different dimensions I think you can use him in that I'm not worried. He's definitely going to score his touchdowns. He's definitely going to catch his passes. I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey, so that's kind of my
Yeah, I'm the same
cut
way.
and
I
chase.
yeah, I haven't drafted him yet, yeah, but I haven't been. I've been either first, that was the second time, or all the way back at 9, 10, 11, or 12, and he's not around then. But you got Elijah Mitchell right back there, and like you say, they'll pull Debo into the backfield, so he's obviously proven he can do some great things. I'm not sure with the balance that the 49ers have.
Well, one thing's for certain, Christian McCaffrey's hyper efficient. So no matter how many touches he gets, I mean, he's going to be efficient with his touches. I know he's going to score the most of the touchdowns over there. So great pick there. I'm looking at who's that in the ninth overall pick? Austin Eckler at ninth overall. Talk about massive value. They just picked up Jalen Waddle with their next pick. This draft is moving fast. Daryl, I wanted to ask you. I know it was obvious, right, that Justin Jefferson was the first overall pick, but was there anybody else in consideration?
No. I mean, I just
No, no,
think
no.
he's just the guy, right? That he's gonna if you
He
have
just
a
thinks.
chance on him and the season plays out with him the way you think it will, you're gonna say, why didn't you get out? Who are you gonna take a chance on instead? I mean, I know Hill with what Wilson's hurt now or something, he probably will get a lot of targets for Miami. But who do you trust more,
Mhm.
Tagliabue or um, or Cousins going after? Let me see what I want to do here.
Oh, and Cody, you took Devontae Smith.
Yes, sir. I got to get a wide receiver on the board here, and Devonta's the highest on my board, so I went and added him. I don't generally like. I mean, in quotes. So AJ Brown says that both of these guys are wide receiver ones.
Right.
Whatever. I still look at Devonta Smith as a wide receiver two. I don't usually like to have a team that starts with a wide receiver two as my wide receiver one, if that makes sense. But I do respect the
Same here.
talent. It's his best ball, and I think I'm going to have enough wide receivers. It doesn't really matter. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. And then we got Daryl over here with this back-to-back. Najee
I love
Harris,
that start. I love that start.
bottom of the second round. So we have Justin Jefferson, we have Najee Harris, Darren Waller. Daryl, talk to me. We got people saying that Darren Waller is going to be the tight end one overall. We got some people saying that he's the most injured tight end in the history of tight ends. Can you take me through your thought process here?
I mean, tight end. I like to fill the starting in this format. They play one quarterback, two running backs,
Right.
three receivers, and a tight end. And you got Kelce, obviously everybody's flavor of for good reason, right? But I just think
Right.
Waller and Jones, I like the synergy. He's a target. I think this is a breakout year for him, although he's had great years, not number one years. But I wanted a good tight end there to build around. The thing that again, if you look, my first two players I have a Jefferson and Waller week 13, so I got to watch that on receivers and tight ends. My second tight end not to be a 13, but I like him. I think he gets a lot of targets and gets into the house quite a few times. So, what do you think about that pick?
I like
Man,
I like that. I like the Darren Waller one. I love Darren Waller. Also a big Najee Harris guy. So you made a fan out of me right away with both of these two picks. I was at Steelers camp a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people are hating on Najee Harris, but he is still the cream of the crop. And he doesn't have a bad pound of weight on him, no fat, and I think they're still going to lean on him 80+%. So, and Darren Waller, I talked about it on our show yesterday, and I drafted him in that Yahoo mock draft. I think Darren Waller is going to have a 28% target share. So I like how you started here. You talk about Justin Jefferson being the best. Najee Harris is one of the better values at running back. Darren Waller, I think, tight end one. Absolutely. I'm not trying to suck up to you, but I absolutely love this start.
Thank you. Yeah, Najee Harris, I'm a big Notre Dame fan. I grew up by there. I didn't go to the university, but I remember Najee Harris. There's a picture of him totally leaping a defensive back. I don't know if you remember that in the bowl game where he went over a Notre Dame back, and the guy he's talented. I think he's been maybe a little nicked up so far. I think if he's healthy this year, I really think he could with Pickens. I think he'll get some shots out of the backfield and definitely get the ball around the goal line. So I like him as a guy that's going to get a lot of volume.
The one guy.
well,
I
fellas,
want to ask you this question, Steezy or Daryl, either one of you. Cooper Kupp yesterday came out that he's day to day or week to week or whatever, and we moved him down our rankings, or over at Roster Watch, our best ball in our seasonal rankings. We moved him down to be like a mid-second round pick. He goes off the board 7 here. Generally, like I mentioned before, I'm worried about the guys with the lower body injuries. Are you guys worried at all about Cooper Kupp?
man, I'm worried, Cody. As soon as I got news of that report, I was just like, yeah, I'm staying far and away from Cooper Kupp. I understand the talents there. I understand when he was healthy and on the field last year, he was averaging about 23, 22 something fantasy points per game in PPR formats. But there's been a history of him missing time. There's been a history of him and injuries. And so I just don't know if with my first pick, in the first round or of drafts, I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk, especially with the plethora of talent available at wide receiver. I understand the Rams. A lot of people are looking at them as a quote unquote bad team. And so, okay, they're going to be playing from behind a lot. Matthew Stafford's going to, favor Cooper Kupp, obviously. But man, there's just too much of a history of injuries there. That scares me. I mean, maybe if I could get him at the bottom of the second, maybe at the turn, second going into the third, then possibly. Value's too much to pass up there. But 7th overall, maybe they're not paying attention. I don't know. But I'm staying far and away from him, at least at that price. That being said, though, we are in round 5. Daryl just took Joe Burrow, but there was a small run of quarterbacks in round 3. We had Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow just went. Cody, do you have a particular strategy when it comes to taking quarterbacks? Are you a guy that wants to wait later? Are you a guy that wants to get one of those top guys?
Quarterback and tight end are the two positions that I just let come to me. If I feel a value is there, I'll do it. If I don't, I'll just let it ride and I'll wait and see what is given to me in the middle to late rounds, and I'm totally okay with that. I'm gonna go ahead and take Tyler Lockett here, which is not.
Ooh, that's my
You
guy.
did that for Steezy. That's a Steezy pick.
You did that.
It's not a sexy one, but I mean, as you know, you're a Seattle guy, and it's just what it is. Mr. Consistency. We know that Jackson Smith and Jig was banged up right now. We know what DK Metcalf is, but I'm pretty confident in this offense. I talked about the New Orleans Saints earlier. I think the Saints and the Seahawks are two teams. I haven't been able to figure out which one I trust more, but I think one of these guys is going to be in the NFC Championship this year, and it's going to be because of the receiving corps.
Ooh.
So Lockett, I'm just going to go ahead and click that button again. the Lockett's of the world, the Mike Evanses, the Michael Thomases, all these guys that are kind of aging, they still got a couple years, 1-2 years left. I'm trusting. Generally, I'm out on the older guys, but I still think a couple of these guys got some years left in them.
I mean, Cody, yeah, Tyler Lockett hasn't slowed down. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's the only receiver in the NFL in the last 4 years with 1,000+ yards and 8+ touchdowns.
There it is.
And so I think with the Jackson Smith and Jigba, like you alluded to, I don't think he's playing week 1. Probably won't play week 2. But with his presence, I think that actually opens things up for Tyler Lockett. I mean, for the longest time here in Seattle, depth behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett has long been a weakness. And so now that there's guys to alleviate some of that pressure, I think it'll actually prolong Tyler Lockett's career. So we'll see what happens there. But I love that Tyler Lockett pick. I mean, I feel like he's perpetually undervalued in all drafts. And so I'm glad to see that you're capitalizing on what other people aren't. Love to see it.
I didn't see any comment on my White pick out of the backfield of those Buccaneers led by Mayfield, which I think you guys went silent. Like I was gonna go higher, but again, I watched the buys, and the other guy I liked was in 13, and I already had 2 guys in 13, and I don't want my core, a whole bye week where 3 of my guys were out. So that led me more to White. What do you think is going to happen with Tampa Bay and that Mayfield-led machine?
Well, real quick, I just wanted to say, Daryl, Ken Walker was on the board, but you went with the Buccaneers. So once I saw that, I was just like, you know what? Let's move on to Tyler Lockett. But no.
Just wants all the Seahawks back to back to back.
Right. At least where they should go. But no, jokes aside, though, Rachaad White, I know there was a stat last year that's been popping up, especially whenever his name comes up, that Baker Mayfield loves to target his running backs. And I think over in Tampa Bay, I don't know if that's going to be the case all year long, just because he has 2 superstars at wide receiver and a Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, who I think is going to soak up a majority of the targets. I do think he'll be the third option in that passing game. And obviously when it comes to, the carries out of the backfield, he's going to dominate that. But I'm not too sure about their offense as a whole. I'm still a little iffy on their offensive line. I don't think it's a bad pick. I still think he's a low-end, let's say mid to low-end RB2.
That sounds like it was a bad pick then.
Okay, well, let's say it wasn't a terrible pick. Let's just say that.
Borderline.
It wasn't a terrible
borderline.
But no, a lot of people are high on Rachaad White. And so I think I'm just kind of not in that consensus. But I don't know, Cody, what do you think, bro? Am I tripping?
I think he's middling. That's the problem. Is I think his upside is there. I think he's a great pass catcher. I loved him come out of Arizona State. He had, I think, 55 targets or 45 receptions coming out of Arizona State. Didn't quite have 200 carries, so we didn't know if he could do the 300-touch bell cow role. But he looks like he's going to be able to be – I'm going to be on the clock here, and then I'll finish that thought.
Okay.
My boy Mike Evans, I just talked about him. He made it all the way back. Even
I was going to grab him. You sniped me on him.
There we go. I love to hear it. So, yeah, I think that Rachaad White has the upside to do it. And everybody always talks about, this is a bad offense, bad team. They can't have a running back that's going to do anything. But the thing we do know is these pass catchers, when you have an elite pass catcher in a bad team and they get down 20 and he's still playing, it's dump off central in garbage time. And you end up with an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 target game. And all of a sudden this guy is finishing top 10 in fantasy points in a given week. And I think Rachaad White's that guy. The only thing I'm worried about is Sean Tucker is an immense talent. He's a little undersized. He's a rookie. He's got some hurdles to overcome, including some health stuff. But if the health stuff is there and he's picking up the playbook easy, I think Sean Tucker could definitely push for some work there. I'm less. Oh, then you go ahead and take Michael Thomas.
Michael.
Nice work. That was the next pick. I was going to wrap and take Michael Thomas. Now I got to think.
You took Evans, so I had to pay you back.
But that's kind of my thoughts on Rachaad. I like him a lot. I just now I got to collect my thoughts here on this Michael Thomas snipe for snipe. I like it. All right.
Snipe for snipe. Okay. JSN just went. Love that pick. Don't gotta ask me about that. Daryl, how you feeling about your team so far?
Well, other than
back-to-back receivers.
I mean, I know I wanted Fournette, but he wasn't there, so I had to go with White. You guys just made fun of me, but other than that, I think that I feel good. I'm balanced on buys that you got to again watch. I got Thomas and Pittman on week 11, Jefferson 13. So I'm going to have to add a couple more receivers that aren't 11 or 13, or you end up in a problem there. I feel good. I think Cody's probably, depending on McCaffrey, we talked about that. I love Devontae Smith, Atanye, Mixon, Lockett. I'm not Mixon without Perrine. Who's the guy?
Chase Brown and
Chase Brown.
Chris Evans.
Yeah. So I think Mixon's going to get the bulk. He's kind of the same. You got to watch his health, right? But he's definitely a workhorse. And hopefully all his touchdowns are short passes out of the backfield from Burrows, my boy, which I'll be happy with.
I just thought that was a good value there. I really haven't drafted a lot of Mixon, and generally I would have went wide receiver there, but with Mixon falling, I was like, all right, join the squad. And not to give away my strategy, but I'm probably not going to draft the running back for a little while due to taking those 3 that early. So yeah, I wasn't the most excited to take him, but I also did have 2 week 9 guys in McCaffrey and ETN. It does give me a little bit of strength, at least to have somebody during that 1 week of missing the 2 top dogs.
Is that how you pronounce it, ETN? I always say Atanye, or like that fashion brand, right?
I like that. I like Atanye. I like
Atanye sounds foreign.
It does sound like that actually does sound like a good clothing brand.
It does. Hey, Daryl, you might have just given me an idea. Oh, shoot. Atanye, I like that. Hey, we might have to clip that. I like that. I've never heard anybody say that, but I like it. But there's a guy here on the board that's still available, wide receiver. There was a report that came out yesterday.
Don't say it until after Cody drafts. Don't say his name.
Until after Cody drafts? Okay. But I do want to let y'all know and tuned in. There's a receiver on the board that
let me guess who it is, Steezy. It's the 3rd wide receiver for Seattle.
Well, the 3rd wide receiver for Seattle actually went, last round. So, but good try, though. Good guess, Daryl. No, it's actually, he just went, so I'm going to reveal his name, but Sky Moore? Anybody?
Yep.
You guys are high on him?
Yep.
Would you have taken him, Cody, if he lasted?
Yep.
Yeah. I seen this report yesterday. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that was the top guy in my rankings, and I was literally it was between him and Zay in the last pick. And I just went with Zay because I think there's more upside there because there's less, I think, high-end talent to compete with. I know Odell Beckham's there. I'm not really worried about Rashad Bateman, but I think Mark Andrews opens up the field for Zay Flowers. But I think in the inverse, when you look at Kansas City, Sky Moore, I think, is the guy that probably leads this team in targets outside of Travis Kelce. I just know that there's so much more talent there that they like that in best ball, it tugs on me because I want the upside, and Zay, I think, gives me a little more upside. That's kind of why I went there. But
no doubt. I think Sky Moore probably the safer guy as far as floor, but hey, just like you, brother. I mean, I'm all for upside, especially once we get into the later rounds. But Sky Moore, I think he'll be steady, but alluding or going back to what you said, I mean, I just think that in Kansas City, there's more potential, there's more upside in a Justin Ross, like in a Rashee Rice late. But Sky Moore, I mean, I think if the value's there, is definitely a guy I'm also keeping my eye on. Just because last year in the slot, Juju Smith-Schuster, when he was there, I know he didn't crack 1,000 yards, but he definitely had a role, definitely had a couple of monster games throughout the season. And going back to what I said earlier, there was this report that Sky Moore, I think it's the Chiefs GM, he talked about how he expects, or he has high expectations for a Sky Moore, and that to begin the season, Justin Ross, Rashee Rice, those guys are going to be package players. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, whoever took him was the 11th overall dude. They ended up taking Sky Moore. So great pick for them. Daryl just took OBJ. Speaking of OBJ, he went there. AJ Dillon. Well, Cody's on the clock now. I'm a little late, but I think AJ Dillon on the 9th round is a steal. Daryl, how you feeling about AJ Dillon?
I'm a Packer fan at heart, and not like I am a San Francisco Giants baseball fan. But I think with Love and Jones, if Jones and Dillon are on the board together, I'd take Dillon. I like him out of the backfield. I think his legs are fresher. Jones seems to get nicked up again a little bit lately. So I like that. I was going to ask this guy more. What do you think about James? You think he'll? I know he's still on the board, so somebody might grab him. But I think he's going to.
Oh, Richie James.
Yeah, for the Chiefs, the receiver that they picked up, wasn't he from the Giants?
Yes, yes. I think with the Richie James, he had a couple of nice games with the Giants last year. I think there were a couple of games in which he was the number one, and the stats aren't going to show it, but I think he's definitely an intriguing option. Definitely a guy that I'd like to take a flyer on. Until we know who Patrick Mahomes' preferred target after Travis Kelce is, for the time being, I'm taking shots on all these guys however I can. Like I have a lot of shares of Justin Ross. I have a lot of shares of Rasheed Rice. I have a few shares of Scott Moore. And then now that you bring up Richie James, I have a couple of drafts this weekend. Definitely got him in a target. If not in the last round, then definitely somewhere in there. But there's always a lot of potential, especially when you're catching passes from the best offensive football, from the best quarterback in football, from the best coach in football. And so I like Richie James, but there's definitely talent above him that I like a little bit more. But like I said, I'll take a flyer on him late in the rounds.
I want to ask Cody about Richardson. He seems to be either real high or real low. I love his running. I mean, you don't have the back there, right? Taylor. And
Yep.
so what do you have? You have a couple of guys, Hall and the other guy, but I think Richardson takes off and runs more, right? Without Taylor there. I'm like, if you got Pittman out there and Pierce, right, as receivers, and you got a tight end with Jelani Woods. I know he's nicked up a little bit, but I like him. I think that he's, I call him a QB RB2, right, or RB1.
Bingo. I love him. I think he's the most athletic quarterback to ever come out in the draft ever. That's on playerprofiler.com. You can go check that out in the athleticism scores and stuff. But as far as fantasy football goes, and you're playing one quarterback leagues, you want that Konami King, that guy that can run the ball. And last year we saw what Justin Fields did. Even with some inefficiencies in the passing game, he still was able to surpass 1,000 yards on the ground. And it was always of the ilk that if Richardson got drafted top 10 and if he was given the keys week 1, he was going for 1,200 yards on the ground this season. And I'm still there. That's a little over 70 yards rushing per game, which with him in this offense, in this situation, I don't think that's blasphemy. I think that's completely I just think it's going to happen. People like look at me when I say that and they're like, dude, come on. It's a rookie. This offense bad. He doesn't really have anybody around him. It's like, okay, well, the Jonathan Taylor thing I think can be looked at in two different ways. One is, yes, it would help him because the defense is going to be looking at both guys, but also they're going to be saying he can't beat us over the air. So he can't beat us over the top, so we're going to put 8 guys in the box. Well, if you put 8 guys in the box, I got news for you. Anthony Richardson's been working with Josh Allen and his passing coach, and he can make some throws. And the throws that he can't make, he'll run. And even if you have a spy on him, he's 6'4", 250 pounds, and it's going to be very, 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 very tough to slow him down. So I'm going to make a pick here.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think he's got huge upside, and look at the quarterbacks that have been excelling. They're dual threats, right? They take it down, and like Fields, you said last year, it was crazy to watch him, right? 100 yards at halftime, right?
Yeah,
a touchdown. You're like,
and I think he can do that. I think that's exactly what Richardson's able to do. We saw the flashes at Florida. And I think the passing is going to be similar. Even if he doesn't hit 60% in year 1, I think you're still going to have enough big plays that it's going to keep the defense halfway honest. And like I said, even if they do have like a spy on Richardson, there's very few guys in the league. Jeremy Chin is one that comes to mind from Carolina, who's 6'3", 225. That's a guy that could possibly be a spy on an Anthony Richardson just due to his sheer size and athleticism. But there's very few. You can say, oh, let's put Danielle Hunter on him. Well, Danielle Hunter doesn't have the agility that Anthony Richardson does. So he'll be able to shake him and he'll be able to run him over. And most of you put a small nickel or a small safety on him, it's not really going to be a comparison as to what Richardson can do to those guys. So as far as one quarterback fantasy, I'm drafting him literally every single time I can get him at a decent cost, and this is one of those times pick 100. So every time, like I said,
love it.
Wow,
You're on the clock again there, Cody.
I forgot to mention this earlier. I know we're a couple rounds late, but Cody, you took the guy that we were just talking about earlier, Alvin Kamara, in the 8th round. I
Yeah.
think that's massive value. I mean, I understand he hasn't been what he has been in years past, but man, I love. Well, Daryl, don't get me wrong, I like your draft, but Cody, I love what you're doing with yours. I mean, it's just value everywhere. You talked about Anthony Richardson. I'm all aboard the hype train for one, and then Alvin Kamara. I've actually been trying to trade for him in my other teams, in my other leagues, and so you're just picking up a lot of my guys. But Cody, do you think that Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams can coexist? Like, are they both flex plays once they're both active, or are they both RB3s, RB2s? What's
I
your stance
we
on that?
we saw it with Mark Ingram and Elvin Kamara, right? In Elvin Kamara's rookie season, and they both ate, and they were both in a good offense. We know how good Kamara is as a receiver. I think it really does depend on what this offense looks like when Kamara does come back. Right now, I trust Michael Thomas, but again, things happen, injuries happen. They're going to roll out Olave. They're going to roll out Michael Thomas. And if an injury does happen, I think Kamara is a guy that they trust, similar to we talked about McCaffrey before. McCaffrey is a guy that they 100% trust at wide receiver. I think that's why you saw him actually get paid at the running back position, because they know he can transform to a wide receiver if that's needed. I think Kamara is also the same ilk. I think he's going to be healthy. I think Kamara is a no doubt start every single week in lineup leagues. And Jamal Williams is a guy in best ball that I think you'll want just because of that touchdown upside. And if there's any given week where it's like, okay, the game script calls for an 18 to 20 carry Jamal Williams game, even with Kamara in the lineup, Kamara has seven carries and 7 receptions. It's a Jamal Williams week just because the game script calls for it. You think about that all the way back to the Bill Belichick stuff. Every single week is a different game plan. And that's how you utilize having guys that can do different things. Now, again, we still got Kendre Miller in the fold. If Kendre is actually healthy, that could nuke both parties, because he can catch the ball to the backfield, and he's a good between the tackle grinder as well.
One more Alvin Kamara question. Sorry, Daryl, but do you think this is his last year in New Orleans?
I don't know. I think it really depends on the season, and Kendre being there would spell that, right? You can get a guy like a Jamal. You can get it. I mean, Leonard Fournette's still out there too. So it's like if you want a grinder like that, you can go get one for free on the street going forward, I think. And of course, you have Kendre Miller who can catch passes out of the backfield. I think if Kendre takes the step forward that they think he will this year, I think it is Alvin Kamara's last year, but that's all dependent on injuries. And you know what? If Kamara goes for 1,500 all purpose and he does a lot out of the receiving game, it would be hard for me to let a guy like that go, given how important that role is when you look at like a McCaffrey and stuff. Because I think Kamara is one of the closest guys to McCaffrey, maybe a Gibbs. Like there's very few that can do all those things.
Big shout out in the chat to Big Draft Energy. Glad you made it. He's got a nice following. He does some really good content. I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter, but he's a good guy with a lot of great things happening. Got he joined. I think he was going to try to get in the draft, but kind of filled up fast. I see Ed got in the draft before us. He was trying to jump the gun. He said.
Yeah, let me shout out Better Boss here in the chat. They talked about how Waller's the next Galladay. Got married, got paid, not sure what drive he will have. I think that might be a little extreme.
He's obviously never been married before, because that is more drive because the money disappears faster. So.
My gosh. Well, I mean, Daryl, does that scare you just a little bit, or do you have conviction in that pick of yours?
No. I think if anything, it's motivation. I mean, and it settles you down if you're a single guy out at that life, right? I mean, women all over. Not that that's what he was, but you're out in the nightlife. You're married. You're settled down. You're focused. You're thinking about family, right? So I'm the opposite on that. I think it's a settling thing, but. One thing for sure, time will tell, right?
Time will tell.
Yeah, we're going to be able to. I have Laporta to back him up, so I didn't hear any comments on Laporta. I know he's. I think he's the next Hawkinson for that Lions team. But any comments on that?
Laporta, I think there's upside with Laporta. I think they have one of the tougher tight end schedules. I think they're bottom 5 as far as the bottom 5, top 5, however you want to look at it, for toughest schedules at the tight end position, coming off of last year's strength of schedule. But when you look at the targets in that offense, it's literally Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got a rookie named Antoine Green, who's kind of a deep threat, but I think that would only enhance the middle of the field opening up. And as important as Amon-Ra is, I think that's only going to allow – Laporte is so much better than James Mitchell and Brock Wright. It's not even funny. So if he can get over the rookie year hurdle and get this playbook down, I don't see how Laporta doesn't excel. Who was your number 1 tight end? You had Waller,
Darren
right?
Waller.
Yeah, so I like that.
I got the married guy that just said retired
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
He's not going
The
to play very
married
well.
guy.
Yep, I like it.
Hey, shout out Big Draft Energy though again in the chat. I like this hashtag, but Laporta supporter. That's a new one. I've yet to hear that one so far. But just to chime in just a little bit, I seen this report a couple of days ago, but they're saying that Laporta has just been, he's been dominating training camp and whatnot, so they could see him being a low-end tight end one. I know at the tight end position, as shallow as it is, that's not saying too much, but as far as rookie tight ends, they don't tend to have a whole lot of success in their rookie years, and so I think that's actually a compliment for Sam Laporta and Cody. Like you said, Jameson Williams isn't going to be there for the first 6 games of the season, and so as far as like the receiving pecking order, he's third. And in a high octane offense with a top tier offensive line, a team that a lot of people are expecting to take that next step, I could definitely see Sam Laporta emerging. I don't see 1,000 yards, but I definitely see anywhere from 700 to 800, maybe 900 yards at his peak. Great value, great pick there. And right before that, Daryl, you took a Kenny Pickett. And last year, what was it? Did he throw for more INTs than he did touchdowns? I'm not entirely sure, but it wasn't the best of rookie years. And so, Daryl, with that pick, I assume that you're expecting him to take the leap. How do you feel about Kenny Pickett going into this season?
Yeah, I've watched some of his exhibition results. I think the Steelers, I think they're out to make a statement. That the coach is definitely has that frame of mind. I liked him coming out of Pittsburgh. I think that he got Najee, Evan. We already talked about that, right? I think this is a year that he's not a level 1 runner thrower like some of the guys we've talked about, but I think he's going to take off with the ball a little more, feel more confident in the offense. And I saw him there. And again, some of it is because of bye weeks. I can't have, there might have been a better quarterback, but if they're the same bye week as my other quarterback, then I have to take the next best. But that's not a cop out. That's just what really happened. But overall, I like him. I didn't know who the Seattle backup was. Who's the Seattle backup?
Oh, at quarterback?
Yeah.
If you're serious, it is
not
Drew Lock.
Wilson, is it? Oh wait, he's at Denver.
Hey, I've moved on. So crack all the Russell Wilson jokes you can, because I'm ready.
I wanted to ask you about Thielen. I've seen he's getting targeted. He's a veteran receiver. I know they have some other ones, but it's like he going to go from the Vikings where he got overshadowed by Jefferson and Osborne, and kind of like him to, have a solid year. I don't think he's going to, be super top tier, but what's your thoughts on him going over to Carolina?
He's going to get peppered. He's going to get peppered underneath. That's I was at the Panthers camp. I talked about the Steelers one before. I was at the Panthers camp as well. And my takeaway was that I think Bryce Young, everything that they want him to do is within the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now they do have DJ Chark and they do have Terrace Marshall working with the second platoon, but a lot of that is deep crossers. And DJ Chark, of course, doing what he does best, which is run fades. Other than that, everything's underneath. It's slant and underneath. Now I was thinking about Roshan Johnson there. Everything's underneath though, and a lot of it's going to go to Thielen, and a lot of it's going to go to a guy I'm going to draft in a little bit. So I'm not going to say his name here. Actually, you know what? I'll just take him right here for the hell of it. I'm just going to take him here just so I can talk about him. A lot of them's going to go to Hayden Hurst, and a lot of it's going to go to Thielen. Those are the two guys. They like Miles Sanders out of the backfield too, but I thought Thielen looked fantastic. He's another one of those aging guys, like I mentioned earlier, with the Evanses, the Ridleys, the Lockett's, the Michael Thomases. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, put Adam Thielen in that bucket, just ship him down. Not so fast. Like Adam Thielen didn't start breaking out in the NFL until he was 25 years old for a multitude of reasons, to go into a small school, et cetera, working on special teams. He's still got a couple years left in him of spry football. And I think Carolina is going to open that up to him because I think, like I said before, 85% of the work in Carolina is going to be within the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. So I like the Thielen pick. I love my Hurst pick. And those are my two favorite players in Carolina this year.
Love it, love it. Big draft energy here in the chat. I don't know if they come up with fantasy names for a living, but hooked on a Thielen. I like that one. How do y'all feel about that? Hooked on a Thielen. And then DJ Chark, do. But they do have a question though. Big draft energy. I need to know, how do all you feel about Samaje Perine this season?
Very middling.
Very middling.
Very middling. I trust it, but because I don't fully trust Javonte Williams. I'm scared off of the J.K. Dobbins situation. Remember, J.K. came back early last year, and then he missed a bunch of time, and then he came back again late. That's when he looked good. So I hope Javonte's 100%, though, he's talking like he is, but I think Samaje is probably going to be the guy that gets a little bit of lean, and they want to run the football. So he could be Daryl brought up Jamal Williams before the show. I think Samaje might be the bucket. It's like Samaje and Jamal Williams, and nobody's like, I don't want to draft these guys, but we should be drafting these guys. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, especially at the
He
beginning of the
definitely
season.
filled in with Cincinnati. I mean, when Mixon, right? I think he was a part of. I know at least one Millie Maker winner where somebody had him, and maybe two,
Really?
right?
Yeah, I think with the Perine, I mean, especially with his ability to catch passes out of the backfield, he's a veteran. He's performed, when given the opportunity. And, Cody, like you were talking about, 100% or not, Javonte Williams isn't going to get a full workload. Come the first month of the season. Yeah, he looked decent, in preseason, was catching a bunch of passes, was targeted a lot. But I think with the Denver Broncos and, what they want to do, I'm actually a little higher on Samaje Perine. I think that, with the Sean Payton back there, I mean, he's had Alvin Kamara in the past. He's had pass catching backs that he's worked with. And so I think with the Russ Wilson, he's never been known as a dump off sort of guy. But I think with the way that he wants to evolve his game, Samaje Perine will be heavily involved, especially in the first month of the season. And so I hope that answers your question. Who was a big draft energy? I guess we have mixed feelings as far as, guys on the panel, but I think I'm the highest on Samaje Perine here out of everybody. But our special guest.
I think they told us we had about 5 minutes. Steve. Hey, Steve.
Hey.
How we
Steve,
doing?
how we doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Awesome.
We're having
great.
fun.
Drafting away over here. Thank you for joining us.
Who's got the best lineup?
Team 4.
I think Cody does by far and away, but I told him time will tell. He's sitting there in that number 4 spot, and he's hitting it pretty good. I think it's going to be. What I like about it is we had an agreement. We're going to split this. I'm going to give him $10, and I get to split the $300,000 if we win. So
yeah. How can what can I say? I joined so late. I'm sorry, guys. Just technical difficulties.
Steve, don't even worry. Don't even worry. Ain't a thing. Thank you for joining. Shoot, we were looking forward to this, and it's nice to finally meet you.
Well, what can I say about myself? I'm started Super Draft. We have a deal now with the Sporting News. Big press is coming out, so Super Draft has been my baby. And during the growth of Super Draft, we purchased drafters. Right? I purchased drafters. So now that Super Draft has got a new home, a new group of guys managing it, great things are coming there. But drafters, wow. Like we went from 100,000 2 years ago to 1 million last year. This year, we got $2 million. Everybody's going like, well, you're only 50% full. Are we going to get paid? Yeah, we're going to get everybody's going to get paid, right? It's like people are worried that there's a big overlay out there. I said, guys, overlay means that we're giving the user base so much more money, right? The odds are like unbelievable compared to like if you look at if you look at Underdog, $15 million prize pool. Third place pays 300 grand, and you're fighting with 600,000 entries, right? 600,000 entries. And if you finish third on underdog against 600,000 entries, you're basically competing with probably 80,000 entries on drafters by the time it's all said and done. And the payout, it's about the same because we pay 300K to first place, right? So think about that. And then DraftKings has got a $10 entry. They're paying out 300 grand in fourth place. But you're fighting 1 million entries over there. So think about the odds. They're just unbelievable. Like a lot of people really don't understand the drafter return on investment. So I'm excited to see how many people really figured it out by next Thursday and come on. You know, we're building still. So I'm just kind of like, okay, it's almost like giving out $300,000 bonus to the users that joined the million too. It's just 300,000. Here you go, guys. It's extra money for all the guys that cash, right? So
Can't go wrong with that.
Before you came on, Cody was saying last year there was, I think, underdog kind of overlay, you know, with a couple of days to go, and everybody rushed in and it filled up. So that could happen here. I know there's a lot of talk about the different format, right? What you just shared, you know, this is season long. There's 300,000 up top, and right now it's a little over half full. So I think people are going to be sitting around on Labor Day, right, and probably drafting to their heart's desire, trying to get in there. But we'll see what that ends up doing. But I'm glad that you made it.
You don't have to worry about stacking for the last 17th week, right? Whereas if you don't have the right mix of players that's relevant in the 16, 17 week, you're out on. Whereas on drafters, you don't. It's cumulative total for the whole season. So I don't know. If I was playing, which I'm not allowed to play. But if I was playing, I'd just say, wow. I think drafters, they're interesting. Good luck, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
We'll have you back. Thank you. Yeah.
For those of you guys that missed it, Steve Wang here is the owner of drafters.com. So, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us on today's show. For those of you guys that are just now hopping on, we don't have too much time left, but man, I have fun. Cody, you have fun? Daryl, you have fun?
Had a blast. Thank you.
Had a blast.
I had a blast as well. Steve, I hope I get to draft with you one of these days. But I guess as long as I'm living in Washington State, I can't do that. So do you have any advice on ways to work around that?
Not legally.
Now, no, I was actually half joking. I'm not over here I'm not trying to incriminate anybody, so don't take me too serious.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a private contest, head-to-head. You know, snake draft when the season gets going. As long as it's not public, we can have private contact with you and I or whoever else, small group. That's even from Washington State. So
well, sounds good.
But we'll I'd love to chat and get to know as many people that are in this business as I can. So
sounds like a plan.
Thanks, guys, for.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.